I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Josh Magro.
My father was my role model. My father was a great man. My father was a deadbeat drug addict dad. And so frequently people hesitate to find valor in a fuck up. Yet persevering despite immense personal pain remains the product of my father's gallantry. This is the jagged foundation of a hero's trial, is it not? We watch with trepid anticipation and gasp at the underdog's dance down a precarious path, awaiting inevitable demise. Besides, we never feel more alive than when we're staring down the abyss from a tightrope we hastily tied. In sign language, the word addict is a hand positioned as a hook, embedded in one's own cheek like a caught fish. My father wielded a hook just the same, baited with temporary bliss and inevitable pain, lured by the poisonous kiss of a toxic temptress, sleeping away his days in a soul-sucking tryst with the succubus. He never said it directly. Cocaine, crack, coke, blow, let's go party, but he never fucking said it. It remained an elusive stuff. Stuff was what needed to be picked up from the store when my sister and I couldn't tag along. Stuff was why my family moved 5 times before junior high. Stuff kept my mother crying at the dinner table. Stuff kept me meeting new family members frequently. That's your uncle and that's your cousin. And that man who's looking a bit too longingly in your sister's direction, well, he's just stopping by. This perpetual sleight of hand is how I learned to read people. Often in the dead of night, I awoke to the storm of my parents raging. The old wooden house quaked as my father punctured the walls with his fists. The front door thundered and tires screamed as they ripped at the road beneath. The subsiding of the squall replaced by my mother sobbing at the dinner table. Barely able to breathe, yet desperately trying to sieve air through the lit Marlboro Red 100 in hand, puffing fumes eagerly through broken teeth. Plumes of noxious smoke stifled out the kitchen light. Promise me you'll never leave me, she said, sniffling, as if recovering from some permanent cold. In the absence of my father, I learned codependency. And over the years, I watched my father transform into a shell of a man. Scarred knuckles and bruises are nothing. I watched my father's eye sockets darken. I watched his face reveal cheekbones, watched his body grow slender and wiry, old beyond its years. Pain and trauma had eaten the goodness from within him, losing battles inside of his own mind. From this, I learned the cost of self-hatred. When sobriety occasionally stopped by, my father metamorphosed into this bright-eyed, jovial guy. Sitting on the porch side by side, we'd watch lightning scatter across a Florida summer sky. He'd talk endlessly as if he'd been saving his words for years. He'd make lofty promises I ate up eagerly. Don't you worry about me this time. You kids are all I have. I'm not going to screw up my life this time. Big things are coming from my way. I can feel it this time. I encouraged him with profuse nodding, thinking this is that moment that the tragic hero comes back from near defeat for a more dramatic victory, I allowed myself to hope, thinking I was his inspiration. This is how I learned to see the best in others beyond their flaws. That concept remained with me, that I had some focal role in my father's life. I called him habitually. I had a responsibility to keep him from wandering too far with temptations and chemical happiness. You say enabling, I say I finally had purpose. In the absence of my caretakers, I perfected caretaking. My father taught me success by showing me how easily one can succumb to the throes of loss. He served as my tragic hero, the fallen angel, painfully climbing out of the mud, realizing the price of free will and the dangers of flying so high with fake wings. He allowed me to watch as he marched through the minefield, and in doing so, he paved me a path with his swan dance. This is but a glance at a handful of battles among a lifetime of being emotionally impaled. My father's war-torn heart adorns scars for which I may never truly know the tale. My compassion for this man remains bigger than any pain I could ever relive. Because my father taught me the greatest lesson of all. I learned to forgive.